You could change your physique pretty much however you want to a degree. Let's not be stupid, but you can change your physique, but can you stick to the plan is the real question. Can you weigh your food every day for 12 months? Do you want to weigh your food every day for 12 months? Can you sacrifice going out for meals every other day, Subway or Costa or what? Can you make that sacrifice? Okay, if you can do all of that, can you now train how you need to train? Can you train twice a day? Can you give up 8 hours a week to just change the way you look? Is it that important to you? And if all those answers are yes, you can make massive changes.
Welcome to this week's Escape Your Limits podcast. Our guest today is known as a real-life Hulk due to its ability to go from a 6'6", 310-pound athlete to a 360-pound mass monster. At a young age, he started out as an emerging cricketer, but his professional athlete dream was cut short when he faced a devastating injury. Little did he know that this would be his stepping stone to a successful career in the fitness industry. His work ethic and mindset in training carried over to other pursuits that led him to be an internet sensation, a fitness influencer with over 4 million followers worldwide, an online fitness coach, and a successful actor. He has starred in Hollywood Blockbuster films such as The Fast and Furious, Kingsman, The Golden Circle, and The Machine. He also signed as an MMA contract with KSW. Today, we discuss how he transforms his body for each role in the film industry using what he's learned as a PT, his methodology for bulking his body and why he gets up in the middle of a night to eat, and his weakest body parts and what he does to overcome them. So please welcome the Nightmare, Mr. Martyn Ford. Mr. Martyn Ford, thanks for coming down to Peterborough to the Escape Innovation Centre.
It's nice you got the sun out for me.
Yeah. Well, I thought you'd be used to this kind of weather anyway. So yeah, it's not quite Hollywood.
It's, yeah, well, we've got the lights.
Yeah. So thanks for coming down. As I was researching you, I was really impressed because you're a big guy. I don't know how much you weigh, but I couldn't work out how you managed to walk on water.
Oh, walking on water was a trick I learned from a young age. Extremely long stilts. Yeah, that was a show and a half, the Nevers. And the walking on water scene was something that was really sold the character to me. And I don't know if you've seen the film or the fight scene that goes on after that, but it was the first time ever in the history of TV and film that a fight scene had been shot above and below water. So the dynamics to make that happen was extremely in depth, and the end product was incredible. It did really well. That did it. It did phenomenal. But it was so difficult to try and get to sell the actual trick of not going under the water, but being able to stabilize on water, and then and capturing the lead actress who was playing it. The fact that she was obviously drowning under it, so the dynamics were pretty incredible. But yeah, it was a trick I learned from a young age. That was.
Yeah, it was very impressive, really. And I watched the guys who were sort of obviously the mad scientists that were testing all these different types of materials, and it must be quite interesting as well as being an actor to sort of see some of the effects and capabilities.
Oh, 100%. And I think what people probably similar to your business as well, in all fairness. What people see is the end product, and they don't see the process to get there. And then people don't really understand and appreciate the value. I was talking about that when we were going around the factory. You don't really appreciate how much money it costs and how much time goes into creating something that someone purchases, and they just see an end price and make a judgment from that. But then when you see the hours of detail and depth that goes into creating that end product, and that's why the end product's so good, you really appreciate the process. And definitely with that show, that was something that I couldn't believe how much time and effort had gone in to just making it look real, which is why it looked real.
Yeah. You're known as the world's scariest man.
Yeah.
I know you're a great family man. You're very close to your children. How do your children see you?
Not like that. Well, I've got a 10-year-old that's turning into a 21-year-old who definitely isn't scared of me, and a 5-year-old who, she wraps him around a little finger, and a 2-year-old that thinks he's a pirate that beats me up every day. So I don't think the world's scariest man trophies are anywhere to be seen at home.
No. The thing that I was quite surprised is I saw some some pictures online of you when you were 17, and you almost looked like a different person. Obviously, you can see your face, but you was, it says you was like 11 stone, which is about 154 pounds. What was that? And then I saw pictures when you were in your 20s. What was that? What happened to sort of change so radically?
Well, there was more happening inside of me than outside of me in that sense. It was about a depression. It was about being lost and not really understanding where I was going. I mean, the pictures online when I was at my smallest, people that know me know what I went through, but those that don't, it was directly after a really bad time in my life when I lost my career and I lost my opportunity to play cricket, and I lost my granddad, and I lost 3 or 4 things happened to me at a very vulnerable age. And I just ended up going on this downward spiral of giving up, in all fairness. And part of that giving up was stop training properly, stopped eating properly, stopped eating. And that was the end result, a very lost, skinny individual that was on a path of destruction that didn't really understand why or where he was going. And then fast forward a few years, found the light and realized that fitness was actually what I was in love with. And it wasn't so much the sport, it was the intrinsic feeling that I could get from being good at something. So I just changed the direction of what I was doing. Instead of going after the professional cricket player, I was like, well, I'm just going to use sport and find a different path. And then that was where it really started happening for me. I think I found an end goal again. And I think that's what's really important to people that are lost, is finding a purpose.
I think a lot of people at the moment are, maybe it's just the sense of what's happened through the pandemic and just the world being quite a crazy place. And you hear a lot about people sort of going through that at the moment. And what was the thing that helped you sort of go from that sort of very lost place where a lot of things in your life weren't going right to attaching on something that was pulling you in a more positive direction?
I think the problem is at the moment is that not only are we in a bad place in the world when it comes to the finance of things, and the state we find ourselves in after the pandemic, which I think was pretty obvious was going to happen to anyone that had half an ear and half an eye open. We knew what was coming. The problem is so many people have been softened up into thinking that it's okay to not be good at something, or it's okay to give up. And almost supported and encouraged to lose that want to win, which, when you think about it, is ridiculous, because life's about survival and survival is about winning. And to me, that's where my mindset was. It was like I'd always been a winner. I'd always been good at what I wanted to do. I just didn't realize what it was I wanted to do at that point. But I always had that built in me, that it was down to hard work. It was down to repetition, it was down to consistency, and it was down to wanting to be good at something were the fundamentals that ultimately made you good or bad. It didn't really matter what the end goal was, because you had that intrinsic energy to make it happen. You just had to find out what it was you were trying to get to. And I think that's the moment's clarity I had. It was letting go of something that I put so much time and dedication into, and accepting that it was no longer there. But that it wasn't a waste of time, because it taught me how to do stuff, and I learned processes that could make me successful in something else. So I think having that moment of seeing the lights, as some would say, that it didn't necessarily matter. I wasn't going to achieve my goal that I initially set out to achieve, which was cricket, but that I could achieve something else, so I could still feel self-worth. And I think the hardest thing is, especially, you probably can't say this now because it's not correct, but as a man, having a purpose and actually feeling that you've got a use and you're being productive and you can create, and you can provide and you can protect. But what is it that gives you the ability to do that? What makes you different? What gives you the ability to earn? What gives you the ability to be successful? What allows you to create a future? And at that point, I had no family, no children, no house, nothing. And it was like, well, how am I going to buy a house? How am I going to provide for children if I can't even get a job that's, you know what I mean? It was like, well, it became such a big confusion that I had to strip it all back and micromanage the steps. I was trying to get from step 1 to step 100 and ignoring all the process in between. So it was a lot of self-reflection, and I think that's what's good about sport, is it teaches you that. It teaches you that if you want to be able to jump 3 meters, first of all, you got to be able to jump 1. And then you've got to build the muscles up to jump 1.5. Then you got to build the muscles up even more. Then you got to add speed, and then you got to add explosiveness. And it's the same as life. You can't just all of a sudden be good at something. You got to go through the processes in order and be consistent, and then eventually you'll get there. And I think that's probably what we're missing a lot.
Introducing the next big thing in functional training, the Escape Barrow, a revolutionary training tool that combines a loaded farmer's carry with a sled push to develop hip, grip, and core strength. Developed in partnership with Pete Holman, inventor of the TRX Rip Trainer and Nautilus Glute Drive, the Escape Barrow can be rolled, pushed, dragged, and carried. The Escape Barrow packs a punch with an impressive load capacity of 440 pounds, and with a 2-stage galvanized paint covering process, it's also ideal for outdoor use. So head over to escapefitness.com/barrow. That's escapefitness.com/barrow to find out more. Enjoy the rest of this episode. Do you think people as well with the sort of internet culture that, you know, you'll see people online, like even like yourself, super successful, and people almost want that tomorrow and are not prepared to, or not willing to sort of do those small steps.
I don't mean this as a massive statement and going after everyone under one umbrella. But from what I experience is that people aren't prepared to sweep the floor anymore. And that, anyone that's in business, you know exactly what I mean by that. Pack your own boxes, do your own work, clean your own floor, do the basics. You might be extremely talented and insane amount of qualifications and whatnot, but if you can't do the fundamentals and you're not willing to do the fundamentals, I think that's where we're sort of missing it. And we're not really certain generations don't really understand what it takes to get where you need to get to end goal. And it's one of the biggest things I have with my children is, and you'll be in the same position, you can give them the world, but by giving them the world without earning the world, you're creating a massive problem for them in the future. Because if they can only ever understand how to spend your money and not make their own money, how are they going to provide for themselves going forward and their children going forward? And that's something that I think's, that's probably a part of where we are as a society. It's been so easy for so long, although we think it's been hard. If you travel the world, you see hard. We have not had it hard in this country, and we still haven't really got it hard, although we think it is. You know, I've traveled to some incredible places, but the problem is with wherever you see God, you see the devil. And wherever you see rich, you see poor, and you see the extremes. And I think it opens your eyes up to how soft the last 15, 20 years really has been. And then all of a sudden it gets a little bit difficult and people aren't prepared for it.
I was listening to your interview with Brian Rose yesterday, actually, and you mentioned a little bit about your grandparents and how they were pretty protective with you in some respects.
Very much,
and then when that went, you know, you kind of realized a bit of a vulnerability in yourself because of that. And I, you know, in some ways, my parents were the same. You know, they kind of did everything for me, and then that step is quite difficult. And so with my children, I'm thinking about, you know, doing things a little bit different. Has that experience affected how you look at your children to sort of enable them in life?
Definitely. I mean, I take the good. I say this and I feel really guilty saying it, but I take the good and the bad from my learning experience from my parents and grandparents. But when I say bad, I don't mean bad as in they were ever anything but amazing. I mean what they couldn't do for me on a time and finance position. And I'm very fortunate that I can do that for my children. And it's more the putting time into their development through, you know, tutors and experiences, and trying to give them part of my wealth as education rather than monetary. You know, you can take your kids out and buy them £200-300 worth of presents from Smith's. They'll be bored of them within 10 minutes. You give them a box that they came in, they'll play that for 4 hours. So there's no real value in buying. Obviously, it's important to have a certain amount, but my biggest experiences that I've learned from my upbringing is the time, love, and nurturing is vital. But then I want to try and also apply into that what I didn't have, but only because my parents weren't fortunate enough to have it at the time. So I want to try and put the educational side into it a bit more for my children, and whether they take it up or not, all you can do is give them the opportunity to try and learn. You know, I think in our family we've always been workers and not so much classroom, very hands-on. And this now it allows me to give my children that opportunity to use the brain more so than the hands. Yeah. We'll see how that goes.
I saw you said that you weren't great at school. Like what?
No, terrible.
What did school give you, if anything, then?
Made me strong. Definitely made me strong. I think it taught me that life was difficult in a sense of, you know, I went to a school where, because I was always so big and a lot bigger than kids my age, the kids that were 4 or 5 years older than me always, looking back, probably felt threatened and made sure I understood where I was in my place. So, you know, from the age of like 10 or 11, I was having to deal with 14, 15-year-olds that wanted to have it off on the playground. And that was I was never really a fighting person. I was just big. So that was something that made me understand that life's not always nice. It taught me that life's too short to do something you don't want to do. And being in the classroom was definitely something I did not want to do. I hated it with a passion. And in all fairness, I didn't really have massive friendship circle, but I had 1 or 2 close friends, and it really taught me that you're on your own, and you really are on your own, and you'll create small circles of friendship, but ultimately you're in control of your own destiny, and it's down to you to make a good life or a not so good life. So I think that was pretty much what I took out of school. I can't remember much else.
Do you think some of it as well, though? I know I sense you're a bit of a creative person. I don't know whether I'm correct, but that's my sort of my perception. Do you think that in sort of traditional school, you're definitely younger than me, but they probably wasn't giving you some of those things that you could have got into and really enjoyed. Based on the curriculum.
100%. I think the problem with school, I don't think it's really changed from going to parents' evening and seeing how it's done now, is that you're trained to be something that they can use, as in the system and the government, and it's a nice, all right, well, if we can get you into that box, we can tick that and we can utilise you. They don't really want people, this sounds a bit negative, but I don't think they want people to develop and be the best they can be, because ultimately it's challenging to their hold.
Yeah, I would agree. I had a similar experience at school, and I suppose they don't teach you to be free thinkers. They don't teach you some of the basic things.
They don't want you to ask them questions. They don't want you to disagree. They don't want you to have opinions. They want you to say yes, no.
We went to a parents' evening with my daughter's teacher, and she said exactly the same thing. She said she's really great, but she asks too many questions and puts her hands up.
That's the point, isn't it?
And the first thing I said, well, isn't that a good thing?
Yeah.
And she kind of thought a minute, and then she sort of changed the question. But it's like, Shane wants to know everything.
Yeah.
But they kind of want. Well, in this particular place, they kind of want her to conform a little bit. Maybe if you could just tone it down a touch.
Yeah. We want you to be good, but not too good. We want you to be interested, but not too interested. And then also with the schooling, it's like, well, it's always down to weekend. We've got 25, 30 other children to teach.
Exactly, yeah.
Oh, so what about mine? I'm not bothered about the other 25. And I think that's where I'm taking a bit more of a hands-on approach with my children's education and trying to give them an external helping hand as well, and also, like you said, to try and find stuff they enjoy doing. My eldest, she horse rides. She does dance, she's done swimming, she's done tutoring after school. I wanted to experience everything so she can make an informed decision on what she wants to go into when she's older, and not think that she has to be in an office working for someone, being told what time to turn up, what time to go home, and ultimately end up depressed. Because I don't think anyone really wants that.
No. Who were some of your key influences when you grew up that have shaped who you've become today?
Definitely was always sports. Everything was sport-based. And it was I'd say, role models in a sense were a guy who used to play cricket for Warwickshire and South Africa called Alan Donald, who was a very headstrong, fast, aggressive opening bowler. Jonah Lumu used to play rugby for New Zealand, same, just a big dude that just head down and just charge. Used to love that. And Roy Keane, footballer. People that were always sort of non-nonsense, turn up, get the job done, go home, turn up the next day and do the same. And that I love that. You know, I like professional individuals who aren't afraid to be strong characters, say what they think, wear the heart on the sleeve, and be committed and non-nonsense. I'm not into the school ground bantery. I like professional, hard-working, almost slightly angry individual. I just think it's something that's definitely resonates with me. I'm all up for having a bit of fun and games, but when it comes to work, I'm there to work. Yeah. And that's what's stayed with me through my training, through my acting. I can almost be boring because it's such a job for me. That's what I need to put my head down and concentrate on, because I know I can be good at that, but I can't be good at something else. So I need to make sure and that's the kind of mindset that I think them guys resonate. It's like, this is what I'm really good at, although it's a fun sport, I'm here to work.
What attracted you to bodybuilding? Because I know you're quite close, or you had a relationship with Dorian Yates, who we interviewed on our podcast, and I also interviewed a number of bodybuilders, Frank Zane, and they mentioned that people who are attracted to bodybuilding, which is myself for quite a bit of my life, even now today really, they kind of use bodybuilding. There was two things. They either had an issue with their father, some kind of, even Arnold Schwarzenegger, they said fitted into this category, or it's used as some sort of shield. Mm-hmm. So what attracted you, and what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, father relationship, definitely, that's not a one. My dad's we're very close. So there's never been anything there. Shield, I could understand that to a degree. I think for me, what really attracted me to bodybuilding was actually something completely different to that. It was the ability to be good at something and rely on no one else. And to constantly test and challenge myself. And at times to hurt myself without physically hurting myself. When I got that rage inside me and that anger and that frustration, I could go in the gym and I could put on relevant music, I could scream it down, I could move weight, and I was good after. And I genuinely, hand on heart, I'd put money on it if I'd never got into lifting weights. I say lifting weights rather than bodybuilding because I never competed. So out of respect to the sport, I'd say I enjoy lifting weights. I'd have probably ended up in prison, genuinely, because I had so much frustration and anger and resentment and hate and just lost. Didn't know what to do, how to channel the energy at all. Nowadays I'll be on medication 100%. Oh, you got ADHD, or you've got this, or you've got that, or you've got that. And there'll be a label put on me and I'd be dosed up and I'd be stoned. But that wasn't the problem. The problem was knowing where to channel it. And like you said, I am definitely creative with my mind. Not so much in an artistic manner, but visionary. And, I've got people around me that'll come with today who will say exactly the same. I've got brilliant ideas, but it's hard to put them ideas into play. And that's why I need a good team around me to run off with the ideas that run through my head. And I think that was part of the problem I had 101 things going on, and I wasn't able to get any of it out. And then it was just imploding, and I was just getting out. And that was my problem. I always had sport. I had cricket to get rid of that frustration, and I'd lost that, and I found it through bodybuilding again.
From a mental place, we'll talk about sort of inside the ears, whatever that is, that mind, that brain. But do you find that as creative and inspirational and you know, visionary that you are, that is also sort of balanced with moments of equal sort of deepness on the other side, so that you kind of, you have these great moments, but you also sometimes have to deal with those other things, which is where you use the gym to kind of, like, you know, balance that out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm you know, I'm definitely someone who will give you an answer in seconds with my emotions, and then my brain will kick in, and that was a stupid answer. and I do have that countering about me. I think it's important to have that as well. I think it's important to go with your heart, but I think it's also important to activate your brain and to try and make the right decisions. It can also be very frustrating for people around you when you have that, which I know is frustrating for people around me, because I'll have the best idea in the world today and I'll change my mind tomorrow because my brain's kicked into the initial thought. So I think it's something that I definitely carry, but I think it's seen me well till now. And I've definitely ended up in a position where many people wouldn't have expected me to be. So I can only have that to thank.
Do you still have in life, I know things seem to be going from an outsider, seem to be going really, really well at the moment, but do you have times where, you know, mentally it's difficult and challenging still today, or you sort of, you don't have to deal with that anymore?
That's an interesting question, because I think for me, I went through a time where it was so easy I didn't have to challenge myself, and it was the worst time of my life because I didn't realize how easy life had become. And when I look back, I kind of think, well, I was just static for 12 months because it was so easy. Money was coming in, things were happening. I never had to push myself or challenge myself physically or mentally. And I was almost retired, sat at home, and I was only, you know, this was only like last year. That was during COVID as well, to be honest. Sat there thinking, okay, I feel great. I enjoy life. I've got everything I ever want. But what's the point of getting up tomorrow because I've got nothing to work for? And that was kind of like, I need that hunger back. And that was where that comes from, the sort of self-doubt. I'm not good enough. Yes, you are. Prove it. Right, let's go. And that's why I'd make these stupid ideas of doing a fight or doing it's like, oh, you don't think I can do that? I'll watch. And it's that sort of, I think that's what life is, especially for people that want to achieve. I don't want to say successful because it's quite obnoxious, but people that enjoy challenge. It's about not being comfortable. It's about escaping your limits.
Thank you for that.
But do you understand what I mean?
Well, I was reading there's a psychological description of this where people, there's this sort of comfort position where if you have this reasonable level of comfort, that it's very difficult for people to be motivated to change.
Yes, 100%.
And I guess, you know, even in society, kind of, you know, people are comfortable enough. When that drops even a small amount, there's this huge amount of natural motivation that kicks in that causes people to do way more than what they would be capable of. But if you kind of stick in that position, then you kind of just end up staying there. And I think, you know, I try and do this is to think, how can I sort of self-generate that pressure without doing stupid stuff and self-sabotaging, but to cause me to be better, to be the best person I can be.
And I think that's very obvious in professional sports.
Really?
Yeah, 100%. I'd definitely say that. I'd say the sportsmen of 20, 30 years ago were so much hungrier than those of today. I mean, you look at the guy, Anthony Joshua, turned around the other day and said, I'm motivated by money. I don't care if I win. What the hell? Well, who the hell says that? Do you know what I mean? It's like, and you can't fault him for his finance, but what's he done outside of that? And it's like, well, why would you get into sport if you don't want to be the best? Same as the footballers. How many professional sportsmen hit the top peak of the game and can hold it?
Very few.
Because it's too easy. There's your contract for 5 years on £200,000 a week. By the way, I want you up at 6 o'clock in the morning to run laps. Fuck off. I don't need to. I'm multi-millionaire. I've got more than you, who own the club. You still got to train. Why? That comfort. They're no longer that being the best in the sport, no longer is that important because they've hit a different level financially where their life's so easy. They don't need to live in that danger zone. They're not fighting for survival or fighting to be something that they were fighting all their life. Conor McGregor.
Yeah, I was just about to say that.
Conor McGregor, prime example. Prime example, unbelievable businessman.
Yeah.
But where's his fight career gone after he got good? He got good and his trajectory kind of went.
Yeah.
But his finance went.
Well, that's why I'm interested, because I know you're a follower of mixed martial arts, and I'm very curious to see what happens next to him, because I watch a lot of his young videos and how he is on even before fight, and his mindset is just he has so much desire, or he had so much desire to get somewhere. It's almost unbelievable, contagious. But it's just, he seems to have got that, and it's like, where's he going to pull that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very difficult. I mean, I'm not someone. I don't like talking about other people's. I wouldn't say weaknesses, but
no, I get what you mean.
Do you know what I mean? Because we all have good parts and bad parts about us. I have many about myself. I think the problem with someone like Conor is that he's obviously come from absolutely nowhere, which has been well documented, and fair play to him, he's stuck with his family and his wife and so on. She supported him when he was nobody, and I think that's what you see about someone in the press and what you see about someone in real life are two different things. So let's not judge him on what we think he is or what he isn't, just on what we can see. I think Conor's problem is he's got so much success and been so successful that he needs to prove himself to himself. But how do you go above and beyond that? Once you've been the best at what you're good at, how do you then become the best at something else? Yeah. And that's a very difficult challenge. And also, personally, I think if he goes back into fighting, he'll just destroy what he'd built up, because I don't think he's there anymore. I don't think he's the age. I don't think he hasn't got the desire. There's no purpose for him to go back into the fight world. And I hope for his mental state that he finds something he can put his time and energy into that gives him that intrinsic value rather than just financial. Yeah. Because money, without standing here and trying to show off, we've both done very well. We both understand that money is great up until a point. And then once you've fed your family, you've bought a house, you've bought a car, you've had a holiday, then the rest is nonsense, because it doesn't mean anything. There's a point where the money becomes irrelevant to your daily life. Right? Ultimately, I would personally say anything over 150, 200,000 a year, and that's just extra rubbish and nonsense, because you're having to stop doing what you enjoy doing to spend that money. Does that make sense? Yeah. Right? And that's when, like you were saying, I need to be motivated to be better without self-sabotage. But what's that motivation? So it's a very difficult thing to find for sports people. And I think that's why a lot of sports people go into drugs and depression and suicide and after the careers, because they're missing that void. And you can have all the money in the world, it's not the same.
And you see that a lot with boxers as well. I suppose it's the difference with sport and business is that sport does have a timeline based. Yeah, exactly.
100%. And hundreds of thousands of people screaming your name for 10 years and then it stops. Yeah. You're like, okay, I really miss that. Yeah. I miss feeling like a god. Yeah. And, you see sports people who are the best players in the world or best participants in the world, and they would have had hundreds of thousands of people screaming their name, and then only 5-10 years later, they're doing commentary on the sport and they can walk down the street on the road and no one's bothering them. And it's like, well, how do you go from being there to there? and still feel that inside you're being progressive. Yeah. That's the hardest thing for a sports person is, for me, I want to feel like every day I'm getting better.
Do you think that's like a personal growth? Like I've never been at that level, so I can't imagine it. But do you feel that there's this personal growth that you have to get through to accept? Okay, that's what I did, and I've got to now grow as an individual to say, well, look, I don't actually need that. I'm sort of somewhere else. And
100%, you need that. You need that self-worth from something. And the problem with sports, not every sports person, but a lot of sports people, is they lose their education at 13, 14 because they're pushed into sports. You go to the academies and you're doing your lessons, or you're really doing an hour and a half of lessons a day that are forced onto your table, and then their priority is your training before and after these lessons. So you're missing out on that real education that could make you it could turn you into a successful business person, potentially. The reality is that sports people don't have the ability to apply themselves properly during that phase of their life, because if they did, they wouldn't become professional sports people, because you've got to dedicate your life to training. You haven't got time to do anything else if you want to be the best at something. Whatever, you have. It's the same as anything in life. If you want to excel at it, you have to give everything for it. If you want to be all right at it, then you can do 3 or 4 things at the same time, but you're never going to be the best, because the person that's willing to sacrifice his soul will be better than you, because they're putting in more hours. They're living it, they're sleeping it. You know what I mean? They've sacrificed family, they've sacrificed friends, they've sacrificed nights out, because they're in there 24/7. You're only in there 10 hours a week. He's in there 24 hours. And that's the difference. So I think with the sports people, because they've given everything to one area, once that area finishes, they're behind. Yeah. And being behind as a sports person mentally is horrendous.
You've been around and rubbed shoulders with a lot of very successful people. How have you seen the ones that have, I suppose, been over and above, like you mentioned, I don't know if you could say his name, but someone who's clearly one of the best in the world, in the acting space, as an example. How do you see those people run their lives in terms of that balance? Because clearly, to be the best in the world or something, you've got to have that focus, and you've got to, that's pretty much got to consume everything. But you seem as though you've got, family is really key, your relationship with your wife and your kids, and your business side, and I think that's very admirable to be able to pull that off, and making money. But how do you see those sort of superstars put it together, and have you seen people that have been able to have both that business success and the non-business, the personal side?
No not at the top.
Really?
Not really at the top, because there always has to be a sacrifice. And if you're married to one thing, you can't be married to another. And that's part of the deal. It's like, if you want to be, that's why a lot of actors hit their peak and then they'll go on a sabbatical, because they want to try and repair the damage they've done to the home. It's true. It's true. And that's not saying they've been horrible people or they've had affairs. That's just saying they've neglected their wife and the children. And I know many actors, like, I'm not going to mention names because it's not fair on them, but I've been in, on weekends away when we've been filming, and we've had a social and we've had a drink and we sat there, and they've been in floods of tears. My daughter hates me, my son hates me, my wife hates me, because I'm never there. I'm always this, I'm on that, I'm not at home, and blah, blah, blah. And wow, there's me thinking, you've got the best life in the world. You're traveling around, you're the most successful person, you're one of the most successful people I know, and you're in bits, constantly living with that guilt that your kids don't like you, your wife doesn't like you, you're still married and you've not done anything, you're just never there. And it's like, well, that's the price you've paid to be where you were at. And that's why I think it's a lot of the very successful people in business and in life in general, whether it's sports or whether it's film or music, unless they're young, free and single, and they have a lot of guilt to carry on their shoulders. especially if they've got young families, because they're not seeing them. I know that from experience. Like, it's very difficult, and I've only ever, up to this point, the last 12, 18 months, is when the bigger roles have started to come. So I'm away for 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, and I'm not seeing my children. I'm seeing them on a phone screen for like an hour every 2-3 days. It's terrible because I'm a full-time dad at home. And that for me was like, whoa, that really is a big deciding factor now on whether I take the film or not. You know, how big's the film? How big's the part? How big's the money? Is it worth the payoff of losing 3 months of my children's life? Which doesn't sound like a lot, but I missed my daughter's 10th birthday. I missed one of her school things. I missed the dance. I missed this. All of a sudden, when you start looking back on pictures, it's like, well, I missed that, and that. Oh my God, and then the year after, I missed that, and that. And then before you know it, you've not been there for 50% of the child's life. And you're like, well, I've got these films, or I've got this business. So that's nice for you, but what about me? And you see that so much, you know, with the children of superstars, and they'll go on these shows, or they'll be interviewed, and they'll talk about how horrendous their life was. And the person listening on the other end, we kind of, what are you talking about? You're a multi-millionaire. And money doesn't mean anything. I never had a dad. No. It's like losing, you know, one of your parents in an accident and the government going, right, there's 20 million quid. Thanks, but what? It's just cash. What's the point of having cash if I ain't got love? And that's the trade-off, I guess.
How have you, I know you're a winner and you want to win at whatever you do. How do you then reconcile that in your own business and life now to when you realize what it's going to take to win at what you want to do, but you clearly don't want to miss out on those key things with your kids?
Trying my best to make clever decisions. And if I am going to sacrifice being away, it has to have a springboard on the other end. It has to be able to set us up for something, have an end goal ultimately. So where's the end goal? Where's that leading to? You know, I spoke about before, there's a certain amount of money you need and there's a certain amount of this you need, but it's like, well, there's also got to be the get out points and creating a strategy of balance and trying to make it fit in, all fit in without being too selfish. I am a selfish person. I've always been a selfish person. And I think as I've got older, I've realised that that's not the way to go. But as a young, I'd say up until I was 31, 32, I couldn't care. I genuinely couldn't. And that's ultimately the stages that made me where I am today. But as I've got a little bit older and I've become a dad, and I think, you know, I think males, let's not say boys or men, I think males don't become men until they become fathers, and then then you really appreciate how selfish you are.
Yeah, you do, yeah.
Even in relationships, you can be like, oh, he's a great boyfriend. Yeah, but let's be honest, right? And I'll ask you this, no, your wife's not here. Before you had children, all right, and you were just dating, and then someone's turned up to you and said, well, I've got a gun with one bullet. I'll shoot you, I'm gonna shoot your girlfriend. Have her. Ask that same question with your child.
Yeah. And my relationship with my wife changed massively.
100%, because you appreciate them for everything they bring. Yeah, 1 billion%, but you have to go into, I genuinely believe when you become a dad, that's when you start realising how selfish you've been before. And ultimately you can be selfish because you've only got yourself to
well, you're the centre of the
your
universe.
World. Yeah, now all of a sudden
I think women are, I don't know, I'm generalising. My wife certainly has never been like that. I have, and it's amazing that she sort of stuck with me until we had children.
Yeah, totally. And I think it's a trait of individuals that we touched about this before. In order to be successful, you have to make sacrifice, and part of that sacrifice is that part of your life where it becomes social life, where it becomes friendships, relationships. You have to be able to go, right, well, there's all that. Shut the door on that. I'm not bothered. I'm going to focus on this. And then that's why that becomes so good, but that becomes so bad. It's very difficult to weigh the two of them up. But then when you have children, it's like, well, it's not really an option now. I've got to make it work because I don't want to miss that. I don't want to miss everything that life's all about. and then look back after and go, well, I was great there, but I've got no relationship with my kids. And I think that helps me seeing other people and a really horrible, selfish, seeing how bad it is for other people. I'm like, right, I do not want that. I wouldn't sacrifice where I am now to be better at something, to risk losing all of it. So it really is about trying to find balance.
How important is it in being successful to choose the right partner to be with?
Oh, key. 100% it's key, because your day starts and ends with that person. And if your day starts bad, 9 times out of 10 it continues bad. And if you've had drama at home, you will bring that into your day. You'll bring that into your workplace. You'll bring that into your training. You won't sleep properly. You won't eat properly. You won't rest properly. You won't talk to people properly. You won't have time for people because you've got something else going on. And I think that's why I appreciate where I'm at now. Like I'm a terrible partner. I wouldn't have stayed with me. I really wouldn't have. But my wife has 14 years. We've been together, and we've been through the good times, the bad times, and all those in between. And I think now that we've hit a point where everything seems to be working together at the same time, it's not a coincidence that my career has taken off massively, because I can apply myself when I need to, with no guilt, with happiness, with love, support, comfort, friendship, and that is so important. It's like anything in life, if you have a safety ground, or you have the right environment for something, it's going to flourish. It's like a flower.
How do you manage the growth between, like my wife and I talk about this quite a bit, because in relationships, I feel you both need to grow, but a lot of times people can grow independently and go in different directions. I suppose with you, with your career, like even now where you're moving into Hollywood, big movies, like you're growing, your circle of friends is different, your perspective on life is different. How are you managing that growth with your relationship with your wife so that she's coming with you?
Yeah, I mean, that's very difficult, especially with children, because the reality is she can't grow in areas when she's been a full-time mom. And you'll probably get shut down. That's the most sexiest thing I've ever heard in my life, but it's the truth. It's very difficult for a, let's not say a woman, because I might be not politically correct in the sense of looks after the family, but a partner, whichever partner chooses to spend more time at home, is sacrificing their working hours or their personal development hours. But at the same time, she's growing we're growing as a family. And it's not so much look what and this is the biggest thing about becoming a dad and a man. It's not so much what you're achieving, it's what we're achieving. Because if she wasn't at home, I'd be at home, so I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And that's ultimately where you need that balance in a relationship, where it's like, what's the point of having two people in a relationship that do the same thing? Be on your own. Because if you're both doing the same thing, I don't need you. If you're doing something different to what I'm doing, I'm bringing this to the table, you're bringing that to the table, let's marry that up and we're going to become great. But if you're trying to do what I'm trying to do and I'm trying to do what you're trying to do, we're just going to tread on each other's toes.
Same in a business, I guess.
100%. What's the point of having two people that are both great at one thing and can't do the other? And for me, I think that's why, my relationship has really flourished, because we both found our own areas of what we are meant to be doing, and not meant to be doing, but what we naturally veer towards. I love being a dad. I love spending time at home, but there's a limit, in the sense that I need to be out doing stuff. I need to feel like I'm providing and giving and successful, and have respect for my wife and my children for what I'm doing and bringing to them. And at the same time, my wife's great at giving me that stability where I don't have to worry where my children are, what they're doing, who they're with. Are they going to school? Are they ready for school? Are they coming out? Are they being fed? Are they being looked after? Are the clothes being done? All of that's done. And that's why it works amazing. It's like, it's the two opposites to come together and create a really happy household.
Are there any conscious things that you do together or that you work on that keep that going?
Yeah, try to, but it's difficult. It's very difficult with 3 children, no real network of support. I'm away constantly. I was in Switzerland last week. I'm in Bali next week. I'm going back to Rome. constantly backwards and forwards to Rome, places that the wife would love to come. We managed to get out to Dubai together early in the year, and that was a nightmare. Just to try and get child support and get the kids looked after. And obviously with the kids being so young, they don't really understand. So I think the most important thing is to show gratitude and respect what each other's sacrificing to get where you are, and to have plans together. You know, like we're looking at moving, and we're looking at doing this, and we're looking at doing that, and I'm trying to give her something that she's missing in that part of her life, and she's trying to support me to help me do it, to give her what she's missing. And I think it's compromise. Compromise and appreciating what each other do is key.
So you've also got a fitness business. I know you've got an online fitness coaching business. Do you still have a gym as well?
Yeah, I've got a private gym. I don't run it as an open gym anymore. It was an open gym, then COVID hit, and like every other business and business owner, it was such a bizarre time that just didn't make sense for me at that point. The gym was always, so I basically opened up, I shouldn't say this, I might get chased by the taxman. I basically opened up my gym with my student loan when I was 19, 20 years old. And I took the loan out to go to university and decided it would be a great idea to use that money instead and to open up a little unit. And that's where the gym came from. 20 years later, it was a fully functional gym that had started on my student grant. And that's the only way I could afford it. We never had money back in the day. And it was always a thing of passion, the gym, to me, business-wise. But gyms never make money. You know, gyms are something, unless you've got a massive franchise and you've got backers and you've got a real business. There's a difference between a gym of passion and a business gym.
This was a gym. This before COVID was a gym of passion as well.
Yeah, it is, because that's what you enjoy doing, but you're never going to make money out of it. No. You know, you've got to enjoy it, and being around it, and you live it and you work it. Any gym owner knows that it's the longest, probably one of the least financially rewarding businesses there is, but intrinsically it's the best place in the world. And you sacrifice. It's the same as people that become that work in services such as nurses and so on. They know financially it's terrible, but they have an intrinsic value to it of just happiness, because they know they're doing something they love and they're doing good. And the same as most gyms, it's a very tough gig if you want to become a multimillionaire to do it by owning one gym, because the reality is you work in that gym 24/7 and you're chasing your tail, but you love what you do.
So you were a trained personal trainer originally.
Yeah.
Are you still doing your online coaching? Are you still?
Yes, we do the coaching. So the biggest problem for me is that it's having enough hours in the day to do stuff. Like, I love the coaching, I love working with people, but this is something that's going to end up taking a back seat because I'm so busy doing other things, but the actual business will develop. And we're going to develop, I actually had a meeting about this yesterday, so it's a bizarre time to talk about it. The business will develop into the Martyn Ford fitness universe, so to speak, where I can still put the passion of having to fitness in to an environment, but it will just be a different way of teaching and educating and helping people through knowledge and experience.
Do you have a training philosophy that you've used with your clients?
In what sense?
So like, are you sort of, is there a particular type of style of training or?
Yeah, well, definitely. I mean, obviously it depends on what their outcome is. You know, I've been through 30 years nearly of training now. So I've trained for sports. I've trained various sports, from MMA to boxing to cricket to football. I've done bodybuilding. I've done fat loss. I've done muscle gain. I've done everything and all that in between. So it very much depends on what they're looking for. But I think the root to it all is making yourself accountable and having a plan that's realistic. I mean, having a diet plan that's realistic, having training plan that's achievable in the sense of the time you need to put into it and also how hard you need to work while doing it. For me, I think I enjoy the process, and I enjoy giving people the ability to achieve through periodization type training. So I understand, how the body, I studied at university, so I understand the anatomy and physiology side of it, and breaking the training down to layman's terms for people is something that I quite enjoy doing, because they think it's impossible. And what they actually don't realize is that a lot is possible. It's just how much you're willing to sacrifice to get there. You could change your physique pretty much however you want to a degree. Let's not be stupid, but you can change your physique, but can you stick to the plan is the real question. Can you weigh your food every day for 12 months? Do you want to weigh your food every day for 12 months? Can you sacrifice going out for meals every other day, Subway or Costa or what? Can you make that sacrifice? Okay, if you can do all of that, can you now train how you need to train? Can you train twice a day? Can you give up 8 hours a week to just change the way you look? Is it that important to you? And if all those answers are yes, you can make massive changes. And for me, I think that's what I enjoy doing, because people think stuff's, results are impossible. You just need to educate them that it's not impossible. It's just difficult.
And it sounds like you're also saying it's a big, are you prepared to do what it's going to take?
Yeah, it's got to be. It's why I've never done a bodybuilding show. Never stepped on stage, because I don't have that desire to do it. And I know from experience, the last 4 to 5 weeks of a show, unless that show is your be all and end all, you're not doing the diet. You're not doing the 3-4 hours a day training. You're not dehydrating. You're not doing any of that, because it's horrible. It's not hard. It's horrible. And that's the difference. It's like, how important is it to you? Is it that important that you're willing to sacrifice 20 hours a week with your kids? Is it that important that you're willing to sacrifice going out with your friends? Is it that important that you're willing to sacrifice how you're sleeping at night because you're starving? And if all the answers are yes, then okay, you can do it, you can step on stage. But if they're no, you're never going to get on stage how you should, because you won't go through that discipline.
Is that how you look at any of your choices when you're looking at something that you want to go after and want to win? Do you make that calculation, say, okay,
Yes.
Look, I can do it, but
do I want to? Yeah, no, seriously, it comes back to the question you asked about how do I find balance with my family? Right, okay, I know I can do that, but am I willing to sacrifice X, Y, and Z just to do that? And I make that decision all the time, and I end up almost falling out with people that think I'm arrogant when I put a value on my time. My time's worth this much to me. Whoa, you're not worth that. Yeah, but I'm not spending time with my children, and by not spending time with my children, I'm missing out on that, which, monetary wise, that's not going to make a difference to me in 5 years' time. Missing out on seeing her at a prom, for instance, I'll miss that for life. So if you want me away for that date, it's going to cost you a lot of money. And that's the same thing. It's like, well, is the end goal worth the sacrifice? And if it's not, just no point even considering it.
Do you have any sort of favorite, or I suppose proud transformations that you've done with any of your clients over the years?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's a couple of clients who have made absolutely insane changes. And what's crazy is, to this day, like some of them, and that's why I think I stayed in fitness so long, because I just enjoy watching people change their life. It was, the money made from the online coaching is ridiculous compared to what I can make in film, but it was that intrinsic enjoyment from seeing change, which is why I've still sort of tread water with that side of it for now, because the difference you can see in people, and obviously you become friends with them, and you see the change in their life, not just physically, but like what they're doing, where they are, how their careers change. And it's not a coincidence that when people become fitter and healthier, that everything else goes upwards. Every aspect of life improves when you improve your fitness and health, because your mind's clearer, you're sleeping better, you're happier, you're more you're more productive, you've got a better energy about you, a good aura. People are attracted to you in an energy sense, not so much a physical sense, but they want to be around people that can give them something. Everyone's selfish in that sense. You don't make friendships or business connections with someone that you don't think you can get anything from. And that doesn't mean that you're using people. It just means that you're going to come to a table, you need to bring something as well as I need to bring something, and you get attracted to that energy. And I think when you're healthy, that energy glows.
You've been training for a number of years. How would you say the way that you train for yourself is different from in your 20s to now in being in your 40s?
I do a lot more balance work. And not in the sense of like, so I don't fall over. I mean, balance in the body. I do a hell of a lot more when it comes to looking at my physique and picking out weaknesses. Not so much for what it looks like on camera, but like if I notice my shoulders are rounded, I know it's going to give me a bad back. So I need to make sure I'm doing more retraction work. If I'm having a lot of a back problem, I'll make sure I'm looking at my hamstrings and my calves and looking at my alignment and so on. And I just want to try now and become as, what we take for granted in our 20s, we have to work on now so we can still do what we used to do then. And then that's how my training's changed. I've definitely took more of a backwards step when it comes to programming my own stuff and trying to have a bigger purpose rather than just be quicker, faster, stronger, bigger. That's all very well, but you can't just keep doing that. You've got to make sure the brakes are working properly on the car. You've got to make sure the suspension's working properly. You can't just be worried about the engine, because that engine's gonna, if them brakes don't work, that engine's going straight through the front. And that's similar to training now. It's like I can't just worry about one aspect of it. It's trying to find out, it's trying to keep everything topped up. Hydration, health, muscle, water levels, everything. And if I can do that, I'll be able to train harder for longer and have more longevity when it comes to everything, really.
Is that something now, that longevity? I know certainly for me, it's like, okay, I want to do this for as long as possible.
Yeah, well, we're I can't speak for you because I don't know everything, but I'd say you're probably you're in your element of your life and you want to enjoy it for as long as possible. You've worked hard enough to get here. And it's almost like, well, I've sacrificed 20 years to get where I'm at. And now I'm only going to be able to enjoy it for 10 because I'm going to be retired then. So, well, no, I want to enjoy it for as long as I possibly can. I want to feel healthy and as young and as vibrant for as many years as I can while I'm at my peak. And then I'll retire. I don't want to give up now. I've just got there. Yeah. Same as the sports stars we were talking about, sacrifice the whole life to get to a level, and then they get there and they don't really enjoy it because they're distracted by something else.
So with your typical week now for Martyn Ford training, like what are you doing from a strength side? Are you using machines? What are some of your favorite exercises?
Yeah, so at the moment I'm training for a role where it's going to be very physical in both performance and for costume or lack of costume that I'll be wearing. And the character needs to be powerful, he needs to be strong, he needs to be dynamic, he needs to be bigger, faster, stronger than anyone around him. So it's an element of strength, speed, explosiveness. Because obviously it's film, I don't have to have the insane fitness level that you would if you were to be competing in sport. But it's still important that I've got the ability to film the scenes. So it's trying to find that fusion between being fit enough to film, but not being so fit that I get the muscle atrophy in a sense of, if you're trying to perform a sport at your peak, your body will adapt. So a boxer, for instance, won't be muscular to a point because his body will want him to be fit and fast rather than huge and rounded. But for me, it's difficult because they want both. They want me to be able to look fit and fast, but they also want me to look big. So it's trying to find that happy balance, which is why my training now is kind of, I periodize it and I'll switch it. And at the moment, I'm going through a bit of a fat loss stage, and I'm going to try and grow into the film, so I'm not tired dieting. I'm going to diet before and then slowly look at being very careful with my calories and hold a certain amount of muscle mass throughout the 6-month shoot. So training wise, we've literally just switched to push-pull, which I'll use a combination of machines and dumbbells. I use the tires, I'll use the Bulgarian bags. Rotational work's very important because I want to be strong from the core for performance. I'll probably do 4 to 5 weight sessions a week, and then same cardio, 4 to 5 cardios.
Right. And what are you doing in terms of duration and sets and reps, and when you're sort of maintaining your muscle mass?
Maintaining. I tend to go 3 to 4 sets of an exercise. I do a warm-up set of 15, 20 reps on a tempo speed of 1-1. And then I'll switch it. I can go 4 negative, as in count, and then 2 on the positive. I might hold the stretch for 1 or 2 seconds. I like working time and attention. I really enjoy working time and attention, especially as you get older, because you can work the muscle hard. You can really put some load through it, but you're not risking the damage to the ligaments and tendons and the swinging of the crazy weights, which, you know, if at my age, 1, you get an injury, it's normally takes you a long time to get over it, and 2, it can be career ending. So I think the time and attention works really well. I tend to do 45 minutes to an hour of weights at the most. And then cardio, probably similar, but I'll have AM, PM sessions. I won't ever do cardio and weights on the same day.
And
same session, sorry.
How many times are you doing the same body part then?
Twice.
Twice a week?
When I'm doing push-pull.
Right, okay, interesting. And when you're doing, like, let's say, are you doing isolation, or are you doing?
So I'll switch that as well.
Okay.
So obviously, on a push-pull, you get to train. For anyone who doesn't know, a push-pull is normally a chest, shoulders, tricep, and then it might be a traps, back, and biceps, and then it could be a legs, or there's slight alterations, but it gives you the ability to train each body part twice a week. And normally what I'd do is I'd have, for instance, on a Monday, if it was a chest, that would be an isolation chest day. So it's more the stretching and the slower time and attention stuff. And then on the following session, which would be on a Thursday, that would be compound, so it'd be your press and your dips. And that would change repetition ranges, it would change rest ranges, and it would also change the way the muscles work, so you can still get your recovery, although it seems a lot training that many times. You're training it different, so it's not really taxing the system, and that's what's really important. It's trying to find the balance where you're not depleting your overall system, because it doesn't matter if you're changing body parts. Obviously, you don't need training. It's your whole system that's the real key. And if your energy levels are low and depleted, that's when you need to start looking at adjusting the training.
What about legs? Like, I saw a post, I think it was from yesterday, where you said you hadn't done them for like 6 months, when yet your legs are
huge. They're absolutely huge. Yeah, I don't know why. I don't know why. They've always been these are the smallest my legs have ever been. Right. And they're strong, they're powerful, they're big, and to the point where if I train them consistently, they just overshadow my physique massively. So I get away with training legs every now and again. I enjoy training legs because I'm good. I'm very good at training legs. I'm strong, but I have to also try and hold a certain look and shape for film. And if I come in with legs that are 4 times the size of my upper body, it's not a great look.
No. Well, and when you do train legs, what are you doing? Squatting or what?
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy, because of the way my legs respond, I try and do single leg exercises. So I'm not pushing too much weight through, because I always end up getting over eager with it and causing myself problems then, because I've lifted too much in my lower back, or start playing up, or so on and so forth. So I do a lot of lunges, a lot of round the clock lunges, single leg pressing, hack squats. I enjoy all that kind of training, because it helps with what I said at the beginning, bringing back to balance and trying to make sure the body's working properly in all the angles.
That's one of your strong points. What would you say are one of your personal weak points that you would have to work hard on? Abs. Really? I
just hate training them. They're so boring. So boring, because I've never been a t-shirt trainer. Like, you know what I mean? I've never been too fussed about what it's like in the mirror. And for me, I don't get the same buzz or pump or anything from doing crunches. it's just something. I think, you know, when you do weights, I think you can feel yourself becoming stronger and better, and you're growing. For me, it feels like whenever you do abs, you're just waiting to see how quick you die. It's just one of them exercises that you're just like, oh God, fucking fight more. And you never. I've just never fallen in love with ab training at all.
No. And with cardio, what's your cardio workout of choice?
I love mixing it up. I mean, this to me, you know, like what you guys put out there, is something I definitely fell in love with when I did it. Is because I get bored so quick. So quick I get bored. And having the ability to switch from battle ropes to the tires, to med ball slams, to power lunges, to burpees, that could just short, sharp, fast circuit setup. I love that, because you can get so much done in 25 minutes, half an hour, and not realise that the time's gone anywhere, and get a similar type of enjoyment and excitement that the weights give me. So I enjoy that. I'm not a massive fan of the machines. They serve a purpose when you need a bit of a back off session and you want to, you know, get the heart pumping. But you've always got to have something good to watch on TV if you're going to stand on the machine for more than 5 minutes.
You don't look like a long distance runner, put it that way.
I used to be.
You did
I
you?
genuinely used to be, yeah. Okay. So back in the day when I was doing my cricket, my fitness was marathon running and rowing. I love sports of all kinds, but that was outside. It was never on a treadmill.
Right. What about your diet? So when you're not training for a movie role, like what would be a typical day or diet that you like to keep you in sort of decent shape?
I've always been a good eater. I've always enjoyed clean food. I've never been someone who's had an issue with a sweet tooth or fast. I'm not a fan of it at all. Never really been a chocolate fan, a sweet fan. I've been quite lucky in that sense. But I've always been a food fan, which has been the one thing that can let me down, especially when I don't have a switch off. My appetite is ridiculous, and I am very carb sensitive. So like sweet potato, oats, rice, I could do probably 3,000-4,000 calories in a meal easily, if I'm not careful. So a typical not training for anything day would be oats, eggs, breakfast, rice cake and cottage cheese, fruit, Greek yogurt snacks, nuts snacks, and then sweet potato, salmon, steak, rice, potato chips, but made them myself in the oven and so on. That just generally that kind of food is where I'm staying at. And
how many meals a day would that be then? About what you're eating about 4 times a day?
Double.
Really, 8?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Easily. Yeah, easily. I mean, when I'm growing, I can easily go up to 8 meals a day. Well, I'll say a day, it's over 24 hours. I wake up and eat twice in the night.
Really?
Starving, yeah. Yeah, really. That's why I enjoy dieting. People don't understand why I enjoy dieting so much, because I don't have to eat all the time. And I'm still doing 4,500 calories dieting. So it's nice because it's normal. Whereas when I'm bulking, if I want to put some size on, I'm up to 8, 9, 10,000 calories, which is hard work when it's good food.
Yeah, it is difficult. Wow. And so do you set your alarm specifically to get up, or do you just wake up?
Just wake up starving. Just wake up starving. People think, I think that's one thing I like about social media and Instagram is people think I'm lying until they see it every night. Like, oh my God, you really do wait? Yeah, like clockwork, bang. 2 o'clock, 5 o'clock, wake, boom, eat, back to bed.
And what about fasting? Sounds like you probably don't.
When I diet, no, I have. When I'm diet, I do. When I'm bulking, I just don't.
No.
I just can't, because it's just, I end up just getting angry. I'm just hungry. But dieting's easier because there's a purpose to doing it. Right. And I think fasting when you're bulking, kind of counterproductive. It doesn't really make sense to me. I understand the health implications, but as sports people, sometimes we put that to one side and we focus on what's going to get the results. And to me, if I do fasting for, depends on, are you talking about intermittent or just actual?
Or intermittent, or just like 24, 48 or anything?
Yeah,
like
no, I don't know. I do intermittent fasting every now and again. I might run that when I'm dieting. I tried it for a bit, but for me, I go so skinny so quick.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense. And then also, if I'm giving myself, say, a 6-hour eating window, and then I'll try and train either before or after that, it's just so counterproductive to my training, because I'm not going to get any benefit for me. You imagine how much energy I need to fuel my workout if I'm only eating for 6 hours a day. There's only so much food you can eat during them 6 hours. So then do you train during the 6 hours and then ultimately you're losing 3 hours of eating? Or do you train before you eat, which means you're training on an empty stomach, which is completely useless when it comes to muscle build? Or you're training after and then you're not replenishing your workout. So do you know what I mean? It's like kind of, it didn't make sense to me for what I was doing.
Are you supplementing like protein or anything like that, or you
Yeah,
just get it
yeah. I mean, not to the extent where I'm, drinking 20 a day. I mean, I love supplements, but it infuriates me how people don't understand them, and it infuriates me how people are sold them as if it's a dream when it's 2% of the reality. It's in the right place at the right time, the right amounts. Brilliant. The amount of supplements out there that don't make sense. It really doesn't. There's fundamental supplements, and there's your vitamins and minerals and your health supplements. The ones the big ones that I'd always lean on to will be your glutamines, creatines, aminos. If I'm bulking, I'll have a carb drink, intra, post, and then isolate whey. But again, only after workout. I would never replace food if I don't need to with a protein shake.
And do you take any sort of green supplements,
Yes.
green drinks and that? Yeah. What one are you taking on that?
I'm on the animal one at the moment.
Right.
They do a vitamin which I've not had before, and that's like algae berry and all that in. And I also use the Udo's greens, which tastes like dirt. But in my opinion, the worse it tastes, the better it is.
Yeah, so I agree with that. Although I'm a big fan of the athletic greens. I get on quite well with that one.
I think there's some great ones out now. I'm not here to plug or post either or. I think the biggest thing about supplementation is understand what you're supplementing. Understand your own body. Don't just presume because I'm taking this that you need to take that. If you're going to the point where you're spending a certain amount of money on your fitness journey, invest in a blood test. Invest in scientific backed research on your own body of what's good and what's bad. What are you depleted in and what are you not? Because what's the point in supplementing something that's already good?
Yeah.
It's like me coming to you going, I've got 10 of them kettlebells in my gym and I only use the gym myself. Can I have another 20 of them, please? Why? You've already got 10. Because my friend's got 30 in his gym. But he's got 400 members.
That's right.
So you need to understand what you need.
Yeah.
And ultimately as well, if you have too much of something, it will cause an imbalance elsewhere. So if you start supplementing with excessive amounts of vitamin C, for instance, that's going to cause other problems in your body. Whereas someone else who has a massive deficient issue with vitamin C may need to take 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. So you need to understand there's pros and cons to supplementing. You supplement with the right stuff, it's great. You supplement with stuff that you don't need to supplement, it can cause you problems elsewhere.
What are your thoughts on recovery and sleep? Like, do you have an issue sleeping? I guess traveling a lot.
3 children.
Do you take anything to help you sleep better and recover?
No, I don't. I've tried bits and pieces. I've never tried anything that's like not off the shelf sleeping wise, because I've heard horror stories about sleeping tablets and so on, so I've never wanted to go down that route. I've tried all the supplementation options and nothing touch it. None of that makes any difference to me at all. The problem for me, and I know it's a problem, and I know when I'm dieting, I actually had this conversation this morning, which is bizarre. When I start the diet, when I'm not into the deep stages of the diet, I sleep brilliant because I'm not overeating. When I'm bulking, because I never shut down, my body wakes up hungry. I wake up needing the toilet. I wake up needing drink and wake up dehydrated. And it constantly, it's working even though my eyes are shut. My body's still awake, so my sleep's broke, which isn't great for recovery. But then when I start the diet process and I'm not eating as much and my body's managing to get through it before I shut down over night time, I definitely sleep better, feel better, and recovery is 100 times better then.
Do you track your sleep in any way?
No, I used to. Yeah. I used to, and I used to have one of them rings that told you how deep your sleep was, how good it was, how much you slept. But what's the point? What's the point? Because this is my thing. All right, you're not sleeping well today. Tomorrow, I want you to sleep an extra hour. You trying to sleep an extra hour. You try. If you can't sleep, you can't sleep. You slept only 80% today. Tomorrow, I want you to sleep 100% because your ring's saying you're not.
Yeah, that's what I've been.
Oh, it's yeah, that's great. Go on, you try and sleep now. I'm telling you, you're not sleeping. It makes it worse because you know you have to switch off and you're not switching off. Yeah. So the whole tracking of sleep and tracking of things, I think every now and again, cool, have a look where you're at. All right, okay. Right, why aren't you sleeping? Okay, I might be drinking too much coffee. I might be dehydrated. I might be this. I might be stressed. I might be that. All right, well, make them implicate them changes. Take the fucking ring off because you know you've got a problem. Implement them changes. Do it for 4 or 5 weeks. Put the ring back on. Have a couple of nights with the ring on and see where you're at. Yeah. Otherwise, you start same as weighing yourself. If you weigh yourself every single day, you end up with an issue.
Yeah, Paul Chek, I don't know if you know him, he said the same thing. He said, look, it's great as sort of like stabilizers, you know, use it to check, but you know, you should be able to be in touch. And sometimes this technology actually stops you from being in touch with your own body.
I agree.
I
think that's a very sensible thing what he said. Stabilizer, it makes perfect sense. Yeah. You know, give yourself a bit of a checkup and then go and implement the changes. If you haven't implemented the changes, don't think you're going to put the ring back on and make any difference because it's not going to work. But at the same time, just thinking about something is going to make you even worse. Yeah. It's going to make it worse without change.
Do you do anything like cold therapy?
Yes. And I'm still trying to think if it's worked. See, every time I've got at home, I've got a great setup. I've got a sauna, I've got an ice bath, I've got red light therapy, I've got pretty much everything you can get hold of. And the thing is for me, the ice bath, I've read very many different papers on it and best ways to do it, best times, best temperatures, best this, best that, movement in there, you should let yourself create a core and all this jargon. And I still can't find a happy space where I do it, get out and I don't end up with a cold the next day. Really? I don't know what it is, whether I'm going in too cold, too long. I love it. I absolutely love how I feel. There's no part of the immersion that I don't enjoy now. At first, it's difficult to get used to, but I enjoy that initial switch off where you go comfortable, not comfortable, breathe, comfortable.
Comfortable, yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah, I like that. And then I've got to the point where I can stay in I could do at 2 degrees, I could do probably 15 minutes with the pump. But then I was reading that that's pointless because you're not getting the benefit from it, because the benefit from it is the rapid change and the shaking.
Oh, right. I didn't know that.
Well, no, nor did I until I mastered the 15 minutes. So
been doing all that for nothing.
Doing it all because what you're doing actually is you're making it easy on your body rather than making it hard. Okay. So then what they're saying is you should try and move around more, break the core actually, and make it colder by not being, and make it more uncomfortable. Right. So the purpose of it is to make it uncomfortable, not easy. Yeah. So if you're meditating and you'll take yourself out of it, your body's calm. Yeah. So it's not reacting. And part of the benefit is the reaction. Okay. So you should try and create the reaction. So I was like, right, okay, that makes sense. So I'm trying to create the reaction. I'm doing like a minute, jumping out, going into the heat, getting the heat, coming back in. And then I'm like, well, this feels great. And then next day, hurt you. Oh, I can't win. No. But then that could just be, this is the problem with everything in life. It's like, well, that could just be, there's a common cold going around. My immune system's low because I'm training so hard. I'm dieting, it's low. So it's trying to find out what is it that's causing the problem.
Yeah, and there's there's a guy called Andrew Huberman who did some research on it, and he was also talking about not doing it after strength training. You can do it after cardio, but not strength. And ideally, if you're doing strength, you do it in the morning as opposed to the afternoon. So there's some timing things as well.
Massive. Do you know what I think the problem is with it? Is that there's not enough research gone in, and it's still such a fresh idea that you're kind of spinning a dice whether it's working or not working. And I think the macho-ness and the ego is what keeps us men doing it. Which
I like the feeling. I like going in. Just mentally,
but how good
it's
is
like
it?
a tough thing to go in there and come out, and your body.
That side of it's great, but then you're actually being beneficial or counterproductive.
Maybe, yeah.
Because, like you said, you shouldn't do it after weight training. Why shouldn't you do it after weight training? And I know why. I'm just, I'm throwing the question out. Why shouldn't you do it? Oh, so that means that it's not actually helping me recover, or it's actually detrimental to what I've just done. So what was the point of the weight training session?
Yeah.
Well, it felt good. Well, yeah, it felt good, but you might as well have not done one or the other. Yeah. So I think that's the problem with it at the moment. And even the guys who are extremely knowledgeable and put a lot of content out about it, even that's based more on experience than science. And it's, you can say there's science to a degree, but it takes years to create proper data. And because it's so new, we're stabbing it in the dark still. I do think it works. I do think there's a place for it. I do think it's something that makes sense. I just think it needs more data.
Yeah, to know exactly who and when and
why. Who, when, why, where, age, environments, sleep patterns, everything, stress levels, a whole lot. But there is definitely something that works with it.
Just don't
know what it is.
What about, I saw you did some shockwave therapy. What's that then?
Oh, that's brilliant. Have you ever done that?
I haven't, no.
Ever so good. I didn't believe in it at all. I thought it was a load of nonsense. I really did. I just couldn't get my head around it. And I still, to this day, don't understand why any physio in the world would want to use it, because it's taking them out of a job.
Really?
Well, I had a problem with my shoulder for 3-4 years. And it comes from my operation I had on my stomach. I had emergency operation, life-saving surgery, and they went straight through my obliques and my abdominal wall. And obviously when they did that, I was 24, 25 stone. And going through, like, the surgeon came out and said he'd never, ever, ever had to cut through someone the way he cut through me, because he couldn't get through the muscle. Wow. And I don't mean that in like, oh, look at me, I'm strong, because it was not a good thing. He just absolutely chiseled the hell out of my muscles to get into my intestines. Now, the problem with that is it left the scar tissue after the recovery on that was horrendous. So that pulled all of my alignment out. So, when they went through my stomach, through my obliques, which changed the alignment of my spine and my shoulders. Being stupid, I was told 6 months to get back. I was in the gym 4 weeks later, which in hindsight was stupid. So obviously I created these muscle imbalances to be able to still work. And that over time created a problem, because if you're not balanced correctly when you're trying to lift big weights, you're very vulnerable. And I was training with Eddie Hall, and I remember it to this day. It was the worst thing I ever did was listen to him, because he doesn't know what he's talking about. And he passed me these 60-kilo dumbbells for shoulder press, and he'd just done about 20 reps with them. I was like, yeah, I'll be all right. I can get 3 or 4 out. And I just remember feeling this pop, like a flip. I was, oh, that hurt. I put it down. I was like, no, I'm not doing that. Carried on training, sore. Next day, my whole shoulder had dropped. I don't know what had happened. Still don't know what happened this day. We had scans, nothing wrong with it. But I've had a problem with it ever since. I've seen some great physios. Not one of them could fix it. And then I had this shockwave treatment, and 6 or 7 treatments in, I'm like,
really?
Loads better. I don't know what it does. I have no idea what it does. I mean, the guy half explained it to me, and it's the bounce effect of this and that. And you don't really feel anything. I mean, a little bit of a discomfort, but that's it. But, I could do it to you, the treatment, and I've got no idea what I'm doing. And to me, it's like, wow, that's just lost you a job. Because before, it would have been a physio, would have had to treat you, would have had to have been trained up in it. Now it just holds this machine over you, and you're fixed. And I know it was Eddie Hall, actually, who told me about the shockwave. And then one of my other friends who's a sportsman, he was raving about the shockwave. And I'm not saying it fixes every single issue, but it definitely helped me in my shoulder. Right. Huge amounts. So yeah, I mean, that's definitely something that's worth looking into for injuries, 100%.
What about your jiu-jitsu? Like, you're still doing some fighting, or you sort of, you know, it seems to be something that's quite important to you. How do you balance like the injuries that you can get through that?
Yeah, I mean, the balance is easy. You can't do it. And it's that frustrating. It's like, so when we sign for any film, you also get a documentation that tells you what you can and can't do. Can't go skiing. I was in Switzerland, literally signed for the film on the first day of being in Switzerland, and within that came a letter of you can't do any of the below. Well, that's a waste of a trip. so you can't do anything that's going to cause injury. So as far as the jiu-jitsu and all of that, it's out the window during prep.
Right. Are you still looking to compete from a mixed martial arts?
I don't know. I mean, for me now, you know, I'm 40 years old. I only ever really did it because I loved it and enjoyed it. And now the problem is when you create a level of, I don't want to say fame, but people know who you are, and then they automatically presume who you are as well as the ring. They kind of put this, you have to win or your career's over, pressure on you, and you're like, well, I just want to do it for fun. I'm not saying I'm great, I'm all right. I'm no world beater. And it's like, well, yeah, no, if you're not going to be the best in the world, why are you even fighting? What's the point? What was competition? There's an element of fun. Oh, no. If you don't win and you don't smash him to pieces, your career's dead. And it's like, well, I don't want to risk my career over it. Do you know what I mean? But at the same time, I would really love to have a competitive fight. But at the same, it's got to fit in. It's got to make sense, and it's got to not take my acting career off the trajectory it's on. Because the reality is, you prep in 3-4 months. You're doing the fight. You could be injured. You could be out for another month or two after. So it's, can you sacrifice? We came over this area before. Is the end goal worth the sacrifice?
Have you had anyone that would have been like a sort of a dream if you were to do it? Not saying you were, but
I'd love to have had a fight with Ford, but he didn't.
Yeah,
I'm not even going down there because he's coming out saying it was very clear on the table, and I understand why he said no at the time. He said no, and that's their issue to sort out. But that time in life was perfect for me because I was already training, so I was ready to go. And it didn't happen for whatever reason. And again, I'm not one to speculate that. I'm not saying he was scared. I'm not saying this. I'm just saying it didn't make sense for him at that time. Yeah. And it did make sense for me because I'd already done all the prep for a fight. Whereas now I think I've done 2-3 films past that day. So I'm completely out of I'm completely out of the fighting mentality and the training for it. And I'm back into another world at the moment. But there's always, I think, there'll always be something burning inside you as a sports person that wants to test yourself. And I think as we're becoming older and as technologies are becoming greater, we can give a bit more longevity to our career when it comes to that. So I'm not saying it will never happen. I'm just saying it has to make sense.
What does time mean to you now at your stage in life?
Everything, really. I think having the time to enjoy and appreciate what life really is while you can. We're all at a stage where we've seen people pass and we've seen people fail and we've seen people succeed and we've seen, the reality of life. And it's like, well, I'm fortunate enough to be where I am and I want to enjoy this time while I'm here because you won't be there forever. And I think my experiences as growing up through sport really emphasizes the restriction of time and that you only get a set amount of time that we're here, and 2, to enjoy being here.
And what about security?
What, as in like people walking around with me, or financial?
Just general, like, do you, like, how do you think about security now? I guess when you're younger, probably there were, it might have been sort of financial, that meant security. What does that mean to you now?
Anything security-wise is just making sure that while they need me, I'm there for the kids. And that really is the only thing that ever keeps me up at night is like, right, if anything did happen, what about the kids? And I don't mean that in like, if I'm dead. I mean like, if I was to gamble my career on something and then that didn't work, or if this didn't work, or if we moved house and the recession hit and it really impacted us here, what would happen to X, Y, and Z? And that's really my only issue with security, is to making sure that I can provide a good, and I don't mean that by being spoiled, but just a safe environment for the kids. I'll survive. I can survive in dirt. I always have, and I thrive when I'm there, which is bizarre.
In some ways, it's easier when you're on your own, isn't it?
It's easier to lose everything because you've got no reason to worry then.
Yeah.
And that was where, I think it may have been Rob on the last interview. He was like talking about the tattoos and talking about, I was like, well, you've got to remember, I didn't gamble anything because I had nothing to gamble. And that was the schooling scenario for me. It was like, well, if I'd have been okay at school, if I'd have been good at school, if I'd have been trained to become a doctor or an accountant or an architect, relatively well-paid jobs, security, longevity, I'd never have broken that cycle. Whereas I wasn't good enough to do that. So I was able to gamble everything to be better. Whereas now I have got stuff that I can lose.
Yeah.
So it's more of I think that's more of a decision-making thing for me. The security now is just making sure that everything I've got is put in place as sensibly as possible for those around me. I genuinely can live poor because everything I enjoy is free.
Yeah.
Sounds crazy, but give me a gym, food and a bed and I'm good.
So a couple of last questions then, Martyn. So now you've got some sort of, you've getting into acting, seems like your career's taking off. You sound like you're a person that has purpose and goals ahead of you. Like what's next for you? What are you kind of thinking about in terms of, your own personal goals at the moment?
So, I mean, the getting into the acting thing has took 8 years. That's how long I've been acting now, which is crazy when I think about it. And obviously, like anything in life, you start small and you grow bigger. We've got 2 films coming out this year. We've got The Machine, which was shot in Serbia with Bert Kreischer and Mark Hamill. And Sony have bought the film. So we've got US cinema release on May 26th, which is my birthday, which is quite cool. So that's a big thing for me. And then Red Sonja, which I shot, is going to be released probably later in the year. I haven't got the fixed date yet. But again, another big film, and I've got big parts in the pair of them. So for me, it's like, well, I've worked 7-8 years to get that opportunity. I've took the opportunity. We've got that coming out. Off the back end of that now, I want lead role. That's where my real hunger is. So I'm putting as much time and effort into training myself up to be ready to take that role on when it comes and take advantage of it. It's like anything in life. Just because you're somewhere, it doesn't mean you're accomplished. Yeah. You've got the opportunity to do something, but you still need to put the work in. So and this is where the sports side comes in really well for me, because the training and the constant training, the daily grind to become a good athlete is the same as acting. If you put the hours in to dialogue coaching, you put the hours into character creation, you put the hours into physical performance, you put the hours into preparation of understanding dialogue and learning lines and evolving as an actor. If you can do all that now, when the opportunity comes, and it will, and you take advantage of it, then your career can flourish. But if you get that opportunity and you haven't done the groundwork, you're going to regret that forever. And that's my goal now. My goal is to take that next step.
Have you seen yourself, like from when you started, have you seen personal massive growth in like how you are as an actor.
Yeah, 100%. Huge growth, and it's quite embarrassing watching the start. I think that's the problem with being in the limelight, is that you can never escape what you've done. And it's like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that when I was like 7, or a picture or an interview or speaking on camera for the first time. And I'm sure when you started your podcast, you watched back some of your first ones, you're like, oh my God, I was terrible. I was so bad. Like, I didn't realize I was that bad. Like, I knew I wasn't great, but I didn't know I was that bad. And I mean, that's the thing, like when I watch back old films, I'm like, oh, fast forward that.
Did you have that belief though? Because I heard the thing about James Bond when you went for that interview, and the lady's like, go and get some acting lessons.
Yeah, you're rubbish.
But did you have that belief that, like, if I, like in the sports mentality, if I keep doing it, I am going to get better?
I knew I'd be able to do stuff that was physical in the film world, whether it be stunts or whether it be prosthetics. So I always knew I could do that because it was so different. Like, I was huge back then. Like, I was a lot bigger than this. And I always knew I had that uniqueness to stand out, to be able to do something within film. And that's all I wanted to do then. So I was very confident I'd do stuff because the doors were already opening quite easy. And that was, good opportunities were coming very fast. So I knew that was going to be a possibility. I didn't foresee myself actually acting properly and being able to act properly as well, and being able to handle dialogue, being able to be comfortable enough to handle dialogue, and being confident and competent. It's a very difficult process to go through, and it takes time, and not everyone can get there. It's not easy to act on camera. It's not easy to remember dialogue. It's not easy to act under pressure. I think that was one of the biggest things. I remember being on the film set, and someone jokingly said, don't mess this up. This one shot's costing £75,000 each time we do a take. And you're like, oh my God, didn't think about that. Like, wages, you've got the ground rent, you've got the light rent, by the time you add everything up, how much it costs just to get one shot, one scene. And if you get the dialogue wrong, or if you get your reaction wrong, or whatever, okay, take 2. Well, that's 150 grand. And and you just go, whoa, I didn't look at it like that. Kind of not what you want to hear just before you get I'm going to work again. So it's taking all of those elements into play and being able to handle that pressure.
So my last question, Martyn, Escape Your Limits is about escaping what you've believed is impossible and gone on to make possible. What would be a memorable example of escaping your own personal limits?
My life. I know it sounds very unthought of answer, but there's no way in a million years that I would have painted this picture that I'm living the life today. And I think the older me to the younger me would be just stay patient and try and stick it with yourself. Like, try and put up with yourself being crap, because ultimately, as long as you keep coming back and trying harder to be a little bit better each day, you can achieve something. But it's giving up that's the problem. And it's too easy to give up now. It really is too easy to not do it. Back in the day when you just go back to training, because it's obviously a training environment. If you were to turn around and tell your coach you're only doing 8 reps because you don't want to do 10, he'd scream a few naughty words at you and drag you to do them last 2. Whereas now, it's almost like you're just going to get a tap on the shoulder and, well done for doing the 8. and I think it's just having that inbuilt that it's not okay to give up.
Yeah.
And if you don't give up, you can escape your reality of where you're at. But if you give up, that is your reality.
Fantastic. Well, Martyn, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'll shake you my left hand.
Yes.
Appreciate that. Thanks.
Pleasure, no problem.
Did you hear that, guys? Did you hear what Martyn said? Don't give up. Put 2 more reps.
2 more reps. It's true though, isn't it, unfortunately?
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you've got any value from it whatsoever, then please do us a favor, like, subscribe, tell somebody, and that will help us to be able to continue to do more of these and help you escape your own personal limits. Thanks for listening.